Mayor, do you mean to be on mute?
No, I thought I was talking. Sorry. Welcome to the Kubeflow Pipelines Committee meeting, everyone. Today's date is January 15th, 2025. This meeting is governed by the CNCF Code of Conduct. The meeting is recorded and will be uploaded to the Kubeflow YouTube account after the call has ended. So I'd like to begin by wishing everybody a happy new year. This is our first Kubeflow Pipelines Committee meeting of the year. So excited. Um, Excited to be back. And as always, we'll start with the introductions of any new call attendees if you would like to introduce yourself. So this is a good opportunity to do that. So the floor is open.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. You prefer.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I'll go quickly. So, Daniel Dowler, I've been on these calls in the past, and worked a lot with Kubeflow pipelines in the past, and now I'm with the Red Hat Kubeflow pipelines team, and so getting a chance to work on it from a development perspective, as opposed to a machine learning MLOps engineer perspective in the past. So yeah, really excited to be back on Kubeflow and yeah, excited to see what we can do.
Awesome.
I'm working at Red Hat and working on some of the Kubeflow pipelines, Elira, those sorts of projects, and just here to listen and see how I can help.
Hello, I'm Matt Prail. I work for Red Hat also. Previous to working on upstream Kubeflow pipelines, I was working on the Open Cluster Management CNCF Sandbox project, which is around multi-cluster management of Kubernetes.
Awesome. Welcome, everyone. Pleasure to have you. So I just begin with just like a quick announcement. So this week we are targeting Kubeflow Pipelines 2.4 release. This will be the first time I'll be doing the release, so hopefully there aren't any hiccups, but if there are, you can blame me. And but we're hoping that everything goes smoothly. So there were a couple of items in the milestone for 2.4 that we weren't unfortunately able to get to. Those have been pushed to 2.5. And I'll go over the 2.5 milestone really quickly afterwards when we get to it further below. And that's about it. Anish, you have the next point.
Yeah, sure. So just want to bring to this group's attention that I raised a PR earlier documenting the overall architecture for Kubeflow pipelines. It's pretty detailed, so it's more for developers, but it's something I was struggling with initially, so hopefully this helps people out. So check out the pull request, check out the issue, and share your feedback.
One comment I had on it was I was thinking we would move this diagram to be further into the docs. I like the diagram, but I think something like this would probably be better suited in the
Yeah,
subfolder.
I saw that. I couldn't actually figure out how to do it, and I've spent some time wrestling with it. So I'll start a thread in Slack. How we do
cool.
documentation for KFP is a little confusing.
Awesome. I don't know why this is not showing up, but yeah, cool. Great. Matt, you have the next point.
Sure, yeah, thanks. So I'll share screen. Oh, it seems like you have to stop sharing, unfortunately.
Okay, give me one sec.
All right, can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so one user request has been to have a Kubernetes native API for defining pipelines and pipeline versions for Kubeflow pipelines, specifically to enable the workflow where you're using a GitOps tool such as Argo CD, store the definition in Git, and it just applies it just like any other Kubernetes manifest. And so today I just wanted to show you a proof of concept that I have running locally that leverages CRDs for just the pipeline and pipeline version portion of the model. And I'll just walk you through that. So first you need to define a pipeline. And so in this case, I've just put it called Hello World. The namespace is Kubeflow, which is where my Kubeflow instance or Kubeflow pipelines instance is installed. And then I define a pipeline version. I specify the name of the pipeline that it's belonging to, the pipeline spec, which is the YAML that's generated after running the Python SDK. And that's pretty much it. That's the only user input that's required right now. So I'll go ahead and apply it. And so by applying it, we get some metadata assigned to it automatically from a mutating webhook. So I'll just show that hello world. So same YAML, you see there's a helpful label that gets applied with the pipeline ID. This is leveraging UIDs that are generated from Kubernetes as opposed to UIDs generated from Kubeflow pipelines like it is in the database approach. There's an owner reference to the pipeline itself, and then there is a status that shows just that the pipeline version is ready, similar to the status that is stored in the database. One thing I didn't mention is that there's a validating webhook as well that will validate the pipeline spec and the name. So similarly to the REST API does today for if you're using the database approach, it'll do that validation, make sure the spec is valid. And before going into the approach that I took to implement this, I'll just kind of show the UI. Okay, so you can see that by applying that, I'm getting the this hello world pipeline. I can look at it, just treat it like any other pipeline. I can start a run. And then similarly, I can upload a pipeline from the UI. So I'll just pick another pipeline. And so I can import it this way through the UI like you normally would. And then I'll show the screen share again of VS Code. And then if I go and look at the pipeline versions that are available, you can see that Slack reproducer is available that I just imported through the UI. And so the approach that I took to implement this is I added this flag called use Kubernetes storage. So it's by default, it's false. But if you turn this on, it will leverage So if we're using Kubernetes storage, it does a bunch of stuff, but there's a pipeline store essentially that just uses the Kubernetes API as opposed to the database. So if you don't have that on, it just falls back to using the database standard approach. So what this means is that any changes I make through the REST API, they reflect in Kubernetes. Any changes I make through Kubernetes, they reflect in the UI and REST API as well. So it's completely backwards compatible change for the user. They can just continue using the REST API. And I guess another note is I tried to make the validating webhook very similar to the restrictions that the REST API imposes, such as the pipeline version being immutable. So any updates to the pipeline spec get rejected by validating webhook through the Kube API. So that's pretty much what I wanted to show in terms of the demo. I had a few questions around this, but I'll just open it up for comments now before diving into that.
So validating and mutating webhooks, they're included as part of the API server, and they're always started, or is this something that we would optionally start if we are enabling this?
Yeah, good question. So right now the code is just leveraging the REST API, adding additional endpoints, but we could make it optional. I don't think there's really any harm to have them on. But yeah, it's just using the same REST API. And the benefit there is that we are using the same Go code, regardless of if it's through the REST API versus Kubernetes, because the validating webhook, if I show that. It's really just using the same code as the REST API, so it's like parsing it as a template, and then if it's invalid, it will return a bad request error.
Awesome.
So far, it looks like the REST API is just doing this, checking it's a valid pipeline spec, checking it's a valid pipeline name, and then the only additional thing is making sure the pipeline name is this exists that's referenced in the pipeline version, because you could create them out of order, and that would be invalid.
Any other questions for Matt regarding declarative APIs?
One thing that comes to mind, so I know with the database, one of the reasons we have the database is to have like persistent layer where if the cluster fails, we can store information, and we can bring up a new cluster and still have that information available. I think that applies to pipelines as well. And so yeah, so you could have your pipeline definitions, and then if your cluster fails, you can create a new cluster and attach it to the existing database and still have your pipelines. So I'm wondering if this approach affects that. I guess that's I don't know if we have all the answers right now, but that's kind of a question.
Yeah, so that's a good point. So if we look at the pipeline version after I applied it, so you would be able to just like back up the database like you would today, because all of that run information, everything but the pipeline definitions are stored in the database. The downside to this is if I rebuild the cluster, I reapply those pipeline versions using the like a GitOps tool like Argo CD, the UIDs are going to be different. And the UIDs is how you kind of associate pipeline runs, for example. So they would still be shown in the UI and stuff like that, but they would be kind of shown as like not linked to an existing pipeline, I believe. So the data is still there, but that would be the one drawback. So a way around that is we could have a UID that is Kubeflow pipeline specific on top of the Kubernetes generated UID, but it seemed kind of excessive in my point of view to have two UIDs. But that is something to consider.
That might be important to have for some companies. I know a lot of companies do audits, and they want to be able to look back and see the trail and what happened. So yeah, it's really important for them to have IDs match. Anyway, yeah, this is really cool. That's a discussion we can continue, I guess.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, that's a good point to address in the ADR or KEP, depending on where we land.
That's that's what I was going to say. So before we get to that, are there any other questions for Matt regarding this?
Yeah, I guess I wanted to ask if there's a general appetite by the community to have this as like a built-in feature that the user can turn on. As you saw, it's like a flag that you specify.
Yeah,
But
we've definitely had like folks mention a need for being able to declare their pipelines declaratively, but they also usually couple that with like they want a full like end-to-end GitOps solution where they want, if their like data set changes, they want to be able to trigger new pipelines via GitOps or what have you. But I think this is like a step in that direction. Um, there's like questions of, I guess, like where do runs fit into all of this? Like the backing engines like Tecton and Argo, they declare that too, right? But there's also like strong opinions about that, of whether you want something so ephemeral persisted as a resource like that. I don't know. I think that
yeah,
to kind of delegate this discussion further, I think the next steps would be to have this as a KEP. So Chen, I did put in a PR for the ADR, but Andre reached out from the KSE, and they just notified us that like a lot of the other projects are doing KEPs instead. So it would be better to be aligned and use the enhancement proposals instead. So Anish has volunteered to kind of just reformat the ADR section and instead just add KEP templates that are similar to what the other projects are also using in Kubeflow. And then, I don't know, maybe Matt, you can sync up with Anish, and this could be like a first candidate for that. How do we feel about that?
yeah, sure. I mean, I'm familiar with the kept format, so I like it, but I don't have a strong opinion.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think we should be aligned with what the rest of Kubeflow is doing. So if you have concerns, we should bring it up with the KSC. But
Okay, yep.
again, so I think proceed with the cap thing. I'll try raising a PR by this week, hopefully soon.
All right. Chen, are you a thumbs up as well on KEPs, or do you have any strong opinions?
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
Oh, it's it's kind of similar to ADRs. It's something that like Kubernetes community uses a lot when they do proposals. It's similar.
Okay.
You provide there'll be a template. We'll have a PR, and we can tag you, and you can also take a
Okay.
look before we merge anything.
Okay. Yeah, thanks.
Anything else? We good to move on? All right. Next, let me take back the share. All right, so next we have Helber with triage issues.
Yeah, just wanted to bring this to the table so we can discuss. Currently, we have several issues, and some of them are staining and being automatically closed before contributors had the chance to take a look, or some of them are there from several months or maybe years with several upvotes from the community. And just wanted to discuss how we could improve our triage for these issues. If someone have any ideas or something like using labels, or I don't know, just wanted to highlight this that I've been seeing in our issues.
I feel that it is a bit overwhelming constantly having to like look at the issues being closed, and then maybe we have made the timer for the automatic issue closer a bit too narrow. I know we had a lot of lingering issues that were way old in the past, and it was able to clean those up, and that's fine. But maybe extending it to something like don't close issues or don't mark them stale until it's like been 6 months or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I think we could start using labels at least.
You mean like
Maybe
triage, like that has
yeah,
been looked at.
yeah, or maybe don't stay on issues that were not triaged yet, or something like that. I don't know. I think labels could help us. Maybe it could be a first step. Also label issues regarding the component. Like, for example, this issue is for backend, this issue is for SDK. So a person who is responsible for the backend issues, for example, don't waste their time on front end, for example. I don't know. I think that the first step would be start adding labels.
Okay. Anybody have strong opinions there? I think at some point there was a triage label. I see Chen nodding.
Yes, we've been using labels for triage, and actually, if you go to the repo, the projects view, we have some. Sorry. Yeah, we used to like have different areas, and if you click open one, for example, as runtime triage or SDK triage, anyone, yeah, we used to have these columns, needs triage, awaits contributor, and assign some priority. We used to do this weekly, and now we don't have the resource, so we can pause that effort.
I am happy to host a call weekly for triaging and managing boards if there's interest in that. I think I know that like we're gaining traction in contributions again, so I think it's beneficial. It's something we can like experiment with. Obviously, like you're not obligated, nobody's obligated to attend, but it could be something I can record and put up if folks want to look at it async as well.
Chen, did you stop it triaging by the lack of resources, or like?
Yeah, we
have
no longer have like a formal team assigned on Kubeflow pipeline. So I think alternatively we can use maybe the end of this meeting, if maybe 10 minutes every time to do a triage. Then
we're always
depending on
pushing
the volume of the issue.
Yeah. Like already, I don't know if this meeting would be already probably not even going to get to everything here.
I think we can do in some overlap with this meeting, right? Sometimes people just bring up some new issues they want to. In some sense, we are doing some like partially triage.
So are you proposing that maybe on meetings where it's not so crowded, we fit that in, or at least we always try to, and we try to get to it at the end if we can?
Yeah, I think that might be easy, more lightweight too.
Okay.
Sorry, I not against having a separate meeting.
Okay, let me so we can adjust the, I guess, the template and try that out and see how that goes, and we can do that for the next meeting.
Homer, we have a volunteer in the chat.
Let me open the chat. I volunteer the manual work if someone teaches me triage issues. I think we'll need to, I mean, I'm not too familiar with the projects the way they used to exist. So I don't know if you need to keep all of them. I think because if we're talking about limited resources, having this many boards already sounds like overkill to me. Maybe we can settle on one board and close the rest out if we're fine with that.
Yes.
So I'll close these out. I'll create keep one, and we'll just put everything there. And then we can look at it at the end and see how that goes. And if we decide on a separate meeting, Madhi, I'm going to hold you to it. And I'll reach out and see how that goes. Cool. A couple of minutes left, so let's keep going. Quickly, I wanted to just bring attention to so that we have the 2. So now that we're doing a 2.4 release this week, we have a 2.5 milestone. It already has a couple of issues that I've added. If you feel like there shouldn't be an issue here, please let me know. I'll take it out. Two, if you feel like there's an issue missing that is heavily sought after by the community, again, let me know. I will add it. I'm trying to keep track of what the major requests are coming in, and we can also sort for those that are interested. You can also sort things by the most likes, reactions, like thumbs up. You can do that as well. So have a look and see what's missing and what do you think would make a good addition, right? And then we can encourage folks to help contribute, volunteer, and organize things that way. So yeah, so this is the 2.5 milestone. Similarly, there's also a 2. SDK milestone for 2.12. This one's a little tight because it's basically 2 weeks left. I don't know if this is getting done, but if we do see any issues or PRs get merged, we will target like we decided, we will target a release there at the end of this month. And that's all I have regarding that. Dermot, you have the next point.
I wanted to bring to this group's attention the synchronization piece that we've been working on. This is emulating the Argo workflows synchronization concept, basically adding locking mechanisms to our pipeline runs. So Chen, if you remember, you had reviewed a PR for pipeline configs to DSL. This piece basically goes into that, adding semaphore and mutex fields to the pipeline config um, to implement locking. It's a very interesting concept. I have added all the description in each of the 3 PRs. It's like an end-to-end implementation right from the SDK to the backend compiler part. But yes, we would really like it if you could take a look and let us know what you think about it.
Okay.
I've added screenshots.
I think where maybe Chen, you might have strong opinions is the approach on the pipeline config.
Yeah, I'm a bit curious. What's the scenario for pipeline level concurrency control?
So this is so within Argo workflows, you can add locks and or semaphores. Semaphores will like limit, okay, if you're using this semaphore, you can only have like 5 runs max, right? Or if you use mutexes, then you can only have 1 at a time. This is a way to abstract that because we have users that want to leverage that utility in Argo workflows, but we're trying to make it so that it's not specific to Argo workflows because we want to keep with the agnosticism. So Argo has its own opinionated way of doing things. That's why this one requires like some, I guess,
Let's see.
consensus on like if you want to go with this approach. It makes sense.
Okay, I think on top of my head, I don't really know the pipeline concurrency makes sense because like different pipelines, they have different number of tasks and some are like very like, resource heavy. So I think from our experience, we only look at the task concurrency. Like when a task finish, release the resource, then the next task can be run. But for pipeline,
Can we get you to provide your thoughts if you disagree with the approach or whatever? We can get like that, I guess, posted in this issue, and then we can discuss further.
I can. Yeah, let me think more. I don't really have a strong opinion to oppose this. I'm just curious whether it would be a useful feature.
Okay.
Is it to prevent multiple pipeline runs of the same pipeline happening at the same time?
Yeah, because
Is
for
that the
example,
intent, or was...
for example, one pipeline can have only one task, the other maybe hundreds of tasks. And like if we treat all the pipelines the same, it might be some like not efficient use of resource.
It's at the pipeline level.
Yes.
So
Like a pipeline has one task and can block a pipeline with multiple tasks.
you would apply the semaphore for a specific pipeline. So presumably it would be a pipeline that is the same pipeline for which its runs are being controlled. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Not
So
like
from the
not
same
across
pipeline,
Kubeflow pipelines, but rather for a specific pipeline its runs.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
so it would be concurrency between the pipeline runs. For the same pipeline, it will determine how many runs can execute at the same time. This was a customer requested feature. So,
Okay, I think that makes sense. That in that case, the interface Sephmore key mute.
Is there an example use case or like that you've provided, Dermot?
yes, in the pattern PR, I've added an example,
Which one? This
or
is
rather in the SDK as well. But in the
let me
backend
just
one, there's like
close all
screenshots.
this. So this one. So on the SDK, you would get provide a config. Yeah. Okay. I think it's worth. So, Chen, I encourage you to take a look async, just so we
Okay.
can get to the other topics. And if you have any questions, ping Dermot. He's more than happy to answer.
Yep, sounds good.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, I guess, and there's some docs here on the Argo workflows approach. Cool. Chen, I had a question for you about pipeline immutability. There are certain instances where, like, to me, it makes sense that we would be able to allow folks to be able to update their names, pipeline names or pipeline descriptions at least. Can you provide some maybe context on why we went with the approach of strict pipeline immutability in Kubeflow pipelines?
So updating the name post pipeline run, or
Yeah, or at least the description.
For description, I think it's actually fine. For pipeline name is tied to MLMD context. We actually use the context to like scope, like for caching, for example. If you update the name, then means like caching, the chain will be break. That's one I can think of. I think in terms of immutability, that might be the by design when you run something, it's like a fact in the past. You don't want to alter that. By altering, you make a new version, a new run. I think that's basically the principle of the ops. Right, everything is version, and you can trace back to the exact like snapshot.
I see. To me, that sounds more like something that would apply to the runs. But okay, putting that aside, so we're gonna have we have a scenario where, so you know how you can have sample pipelines that you start with when you like deploy your fresh Kubeflow pipelines, you can start with a set of sample pipelines. And pipeline YAMLs can have images in them, right? Like hard-coded images in the YAML. Now, if we want between restarts, we want to be able to update those images, right? So if you're using like SHA digests and you have like CVE fixes or whatever, we want to make it so that for users, they're able to receive those. But uploading a new pipeline version for that seems like overkill, because every time we do a CVE fix, then we'll get like a spam of. So, and I'll formulate this in a doc probably in the next meeting. It's just something to maybe think about if we have strong opinions about disallowing that or not.
Okay. Hmm. Yeah, I'm not sure whether uploading a new version would be an overkill or maybe the best practice. But like when you update a Docker image, for example, you also best practice is to like use a new label, right? Not to use latest. I think for that reason, I think the version probably should match.
Yeah, I think, but there's a UX consideration here that
Mm-hmm.
you necessarily don't have to deal with images per se, because here's a UI and
Mhm.
we're trying to update the CVEs if we're doing it like very frequently, for example,
Mm-hmm.
let's
Well,
say
another aspect is if you have a recurring run associated to a pipeline version, every time you upload a new pipeline version, the recurring run's still going to use the outdated pipeline version with the CVEs in place.
I see.
let's convert this into a GitHub issue, and I'll tag you, Chen, on this.
Yeah, I guess one thing to check is if the MLMD context that Chen had mentioned is using the name of the pipeline or the
Yes,
UID.
it's a pipeline info .name. It's
Oh, okay.
Okay, let's keep going. I'm gonna go over. So, Chen, so the cloud build, right? So
Yeah.
after this release, we'll move to GitHub Container Registry, hopefully, cross fingers. And does that mean we can just get rid of this job? Or is there other areas where this is needed? Because right now we have this consistently failing in our commit. It's not pretty to
Okay.
look at. So
Yeah, I think this is just for post test and release, post submit test and releasing. If you have your new CI CD working, then we can remove this.
so
the-
is it just performing image builds, or is this doing other stuff? I guess it's
I
also running
think
tests.
the post submit test will run on the new build, right?
We already have the
But
GitHub
you
actions that
remove
run,
yeah.
right? Yeah, so we
Yeah.
have all of these that always run regardless. So it sounds like we can already remove this then.
Yeah.
Okay. So are you on board with that?
Yes, I think we can remove that.
Okay.
What's the error? Do you have access? You
Oh,
may
the
not.
error?
Yeah.
So when I click it, it just shows me this, but I can't see any specific error.
Yeah, I think you don't have the permission to the project.
Yeah, so I guess we'd need you to tell us.
Cause
Oh, it's this maybe. Okay. Cleaned
build
up.
CPU trainer field.
Yeah. Okay. Let's maybe look at that afterwards then.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry, didn't mean to put your email there.
Yeah. But we can still remove this, I think.
Okay. PTL discussion. So Ricardo, can we make this one quick? We're 1 minute over.
Yeah, it's just a quick thing about this. So TTL feature, we have the CR cleanups task already done, and those are the PRs there. We have for finishing the CR cleanup, but there's still a thing about the design doc about the TTL feature that we need the community to take a look, which is the cleanup, the database cleanup of these pipeline runs. I got a comment from um, a community user that asks if we can consider making the database cleanup an optional flag, because in their in their environment, they usually use the database for historic data. So they are considering, yeah, it's Alex comment, by the way. So all I need is confirmation about this. If we can, well, there are two things here. We need to ensure that the way we're implementing the database cleanup through the persistency agent to watch those events, to do the database cleanup, and to if the database cleanup can be considered as an optional step, and then we can control this by a flag. So those are the things that I need feedback from the community so we can finally finish the TTL feature implementation.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very valid point. I think what he's making here, and the original ask that came from our side was specifically for the AWS CRs as well as like spam of pods, completed pods, hogging up etcd resources.
Also on the database cleanup, if I recall correctly, the MLMD, they don't really support a delete functionality. Even we can clean up pipeline DB, the MLMD record will still persist. Will be some mismatch, I think.
Yeah. Right. That would be messy. So do we have strong opinions here on allowing cleanups of underlying resources, but not the DB entries?
What's the use case of deleting them in the database?
So I think Chen, this was a point from you where it might be confusing for the user if we provide them with an option to do a pipeline cleanup, but or run cleanup, but it still persists within the UI/database.
Maybe trying to recall. I think that's also the V1 implementation, right? V1 had this TTO, and it only clean up the. Sorry, having issue with my room. And it doesn't touch the database. It's only the Kubernetes resource got cleaned up.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to be consistent with V1, then that might be an option.
Okay, so then it sounds like we can proceed with a first pass on allowing at least just to unblock this effort. We can move with providing an option to clean up the underlying workflows and pods. Is that fair to say? Okay, Chen,
that's fine. Yeah, I don't really have strong opinion on whether to clean up database records. I do have another comments on the user interface, whether this TTO on pipeline will be like overridden if the pipeline is used as a component within another pipeline. I think it's we can decide. It's not like it's not documented clearly in the doc.
In this one?
Yes.
So you want just a clarification?
I had a comment on the first choice, right? Because in V2, basically a pipeline can be used as a nested pipeline in another pipeline. In that case, does the TTO still apply if like it conflicts from the outer pipeline TTO setting? Which one is the source of truth? Those kind of questions. I think definitely there's solution. It's just like our choice is not clear from the designer.
Okay, so Ricardo, can you follow up on how we should approach the nested pipelines case? And I can't tag you because I'm signed into my other email, so please take a look. Okay, so but as far as, so we need a clarification on that point. Just on board with moving with the cleanup on just workflow. and pod levels and ignoring DB for now. Just need clarification on how nested pipelines will be addressed, handled. Cool. Okay, awesome. So hopefully, Ricardo, that unblocks this. Just please provide the nested pipelines part. Okay.
Yep.
Next point, merge KFP coordinators into it.
Yeah. Let me ask something. Can we move this to the next meeting? I would like to bring a better proposal for this.
Okay.
So give me until the next meeting for this.
Sure. Where are we putting future agenda items? Oh, apparently I have one there that I keep forgetting to bring up. Awesome. Matt, you have a question here. What is the state of visualization service? So I think we basically decided that we can remove this. Chen's nodding, so I've put in a yes. We can. I think Greg had put in a PR to remove it, and I think we can just take over that and either rebase or a new one. But we're good to remove it.
Okay, can we put that as a 2.5 milestone?
Mm-hmm. Can
2.5
you?
milestone.
Is there must be an issue already? I don't know. If there isn't, we can create one. You can send it to me and remove
So
deprecated.
what breaks if it's removed?
So in V2, we also support submit a V1 job, and V1 visualization will be break. Actually, visualization service is not the only component that can be removed. I think what else?
Cache.
There's some cache, yeah, can be removed as well.
Cache deployer, metadata
deployer.
writer.
Yes.
Yes. Is cache server and deployer two different
Yes,
pods or
different image, but for the same.
Okay, cache server. So okay. I feel like maybe we need to bring this up at a wider Kubeflow, letting them know that we're doing this. Because if this is breaking the ability to submit V1 jobs, then because I know that Matthew Wicks constantly does reply on like because he's pretty persistent about like, okay, we should still keep supporting it if it's part of the product, so or project. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think maybe first step is just to announce the timeline for V1 deprecation.
Yeah. So yeah, okay. I like that approach a lot more, similar to how we did it with the Tecton. So let's do that. V1, we should announce deprecation and end of life dates. Let's do that. And then we can do this.
Is it not already deprecated?
I don't think we've formally announced it unless
No, like in V2, you can submit both V1 V2 jobs. That's kind of like a compromise we made when V2 doesn't support all the features V1 provide.
I don't think we ever
Okay.
formally or documented that the V1 parts of V2 are deprecated, did we?
No, we didn't.
Yeah,
We
so
should
I
do
think
that.
we should, yeah, we should announce it. So this can be a GitHub discussion.
Yeah, I was
Okay.
confused because the visualization service is announced as deprecated. That kind of implies that V1 is deprecated, but got it. It's separate.
Yeah, let's do that. Matt, is this something you're willing to, if you can make a GitHub discussion announcement, that would be nice. If not, I can do it. Or maybe it makes sense if a maintainer does it. Okay, I'll do it. All right.
Yeah, I want all the hate mail going towards you, Humir.
Yeah.
V1.
Which also reminds me, we've hit our timeline on the Tecton announcement. So there was a Tecton announcement that I put out in GitHub discussion. It had a bunch of had 6 likes and 4 upvotes. And I also put it in the Slack announcement. So it's been a month, and for 2.5 milestone, we're gonna remove the Tecton backend as well. This should ease up some of the tech debt that we've had since it was added. Cool. Awesome. I think that's the end. So thank you everyone for joining, and thank you, Matt, for your demo. Appreciate everybody's thoughts. I will post the recording into the Kubeflow account afterwards. Have a nice day. Take care.
Thank you, Rick.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.